Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday, April the 11th. How are you guys doing today around the world? How are you? How are you? How are you? Are you enjoying the middle part of the week? Hopefully. Let me share this on my stuff. Hello, Galia. Hello, Kate. Hello, Marianne. Hello, everybody. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Hello, Tina. How are you? Well, I am on, like I always am, on an adventure, and I love to go to different places that I have never been to before, and I can honestly say I have never been to this place before. It is lightly raining. I hear ducks. I hear woodpeckers. And I am at a river called the Grand River, a town by the name of Kitchener. So Kitchener, Ontario. It's about 45 minutes west of... hello, Daryl from Stagecoach. I'll be coming down to Houston in another couple weeks. So anyway, I'm next to a river. A river runs through it. That's a movie, if you didn't know. You hear doves? No way. I hear quacks by ducks, and I hear woodpeckers, but of course you probably hear doves there in the College Station. So anyway, I am in Kitchener, Ontario, and a little history about Kitchener. Back in 1916, so 1916, a little over 100 years ago, they were a community that used to be called Berlin. A lot of Germans that lived here, very prideful. In fact, a lot of people tell me that Germans are one of the most prideful people out there. So a lot of Leviathan spirits. So anyway, the residents voted to change the name of Berlin, Ontario, and they weren't sure what to change it to. They didn't really want to. They liked the name Berlin because they came from Germany, but because of what Hitler was doing over in World War I. Hey, and Dagmar's here from Germany. So what Hitler was doing, they felt some pressure to change the name from Berlin to something else. I'm going to read a little bit about it so you can get a little history here. It says, the city made itself a national laughingstock when the civic committee produced a bizarre short list of names. They were going to call this Berlin, Ontario, Huronto, because Toronto was like right next to it, 45 minutes away. Burkana, which was a mixture of Berlin and Canada. Dinard, Hydro City, I'm assuming because they have like a river that runs through here. And Renoma, which means famous in Esperanto, an artificial language that no country actually speaks. How funny is that? And also Agnolio, an obscure Italian boy's name. They said, then it got crazier. On June 5th, 1916, British war leader Lord Horatio Herbert Kitchener was killed when his battleship... Here goes some ducks landing in the water. So cool. So anyway, this British war leader, Lord Horatio Herbert Kitchener, was killed when his battleship hit a German mine and sank off of Scotland. His death stunned the Empire, and his name was thrown onto a revised shortlist that was only slightly less odd. The final choices that they picked to name Berlin, Ontario, was Kitchener, Brock, Adenac. It says Canada spelled backwards. How funny is that? Benton and Corona and Keawanna. Kitchener barely won, chosen by 346 people. So how funny is that? And the Lord kind of showed me about significance of that with what we're talking about today is oftentimes, we grow up and we have our identity and who we have been in the past, and the Lord wants us to change our names. Change our names to who He really chose us to be. I know my name was Nelson, and I never really liked my name because nobody was named Nelson in my entire school growing up years, at Larwell Elementary, at Pierceton Middle School, and at Whitco High School. I didn't know one Nelson in all of Columbia City, Indiana. In fact, I didn't know anybody. And they had their last names as Nelson. But anyway, ultimately I learned that Nelson means son of a champion. I didn't learn that until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. So I'm like, hey, I like the name now. And I know that a lot of people, if they're walking around thinking that they are what they did in the past, you know, if they ended up fornicating, if they ended up, you know, doing drugs, all this stuff that the enemy caused them to do because of the pain of growing up with father wounds, mother wounds, and being raped or molested or incest, then the enemy wants to keep them in the past, focused on their former identity. And the Lord's got a new identity for us. So ultimately, He wants us to change. So how cool is that? I hadn't even thought about that, you know, like when I came here. In fact, like I normally do, I was driving down the road, not sure where I was going to stop off to do my Facebook Live. You know, at the last minute, Holy Spirit says, turn here, go there. And here I am, out in the middle of nowhere. I'll show you behind me here. See? There's a woods, trees, pine trees. So there could be a bear at any point in time that could come here. And wouldn't that be cool to get a live bear on Facebook Live in the background? Would that be cool having him go out there and getting fish? So anyway, so yesterday I went, the Holy Spirit told me to go do a Facebook Live from where Amy Semple McPherson was born, which was in Salford, Ontario, which is like a half an hour from where I've been staying at this week. And I did not know that she was from Canada. You know, I knew her from when she had moved to Los Angeles. Oh, here comes a birdie. Taking off. Really quiet. There's another one. Coming in for a landing. Pew! So anyway, Amy Semple McPherson was known for a lot of healings, a lot of miracles. The Angelus Temple in LA that like thousands and thousands of people came to, was one of the first mega churches back in the, she passed away in 1944, I believe. She was born in 1890. So anyway, I did my Facebook Live from there, and the Lord had me make some declarations and talk about how the Lord's raising up no names to help get those that have names and titles but are prideful and arrogant in the church to get delivered from spirits of Jezebel, Leviathan stuff. So it was kind of interesting because the Lord, I didn't have a clue that, you know, she was from there until a friend, a new friend that's from Canada, told me that she thought that she was near where I was staying at, where that she was born there. So anyway, yesterday, that friend then messages me, I guess it was last night. I was already asleep, went to sleep early because I was tired. And I saw it this morning, and she said, you know, you need to check this out. Lou Engle, which I think most of you know, Lou Engle from LA and The Call, that he does these large speaking places like in stadiums and stuff, and you know, awesome man of God. So Lou Engle was speaking in Santa Maria, California at a healing rooms, and he specifically talked about how the Lord was raising up Amy Semple McPhersons. And he also talked about how these stadiums are going to be filled with people that were nameless and faceless for revival to happen in the United States. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what the Lord told me. So I love it when the Lord does confirmations, you know, with people that are reputable in the prophetic and the giftings and stuff, because again, I'm a nothing, nobody, no name, you know, guy from a farm, from a cornfield, went to Purdue University, used to sell software to banks, you know, used to be a corporate guy after being a farm guy, and how it's cool how the Lord's raising up now through Restored to Freedom other people who are no names, so that they can get their doctors delivered, get their chiropractors delivered, get their kids of the doctors and chiropractors and psychologists delivered. So it's awesome to watch this stuff. So anyway, the topic of the day that you're all tuning into, I'll get to that, is, you know, are your opposite sex friendships pure? And it's interesting because with Facebook, I've learned that people have access to pretty much anyone. So if you are married, they don't have to have your phone number anymore. They don't have to find that out, or your email address. They can simply message you. They can look at your picture and say, "Oh, you're pretty," if you're a girl, or "You're handsome," if you're a guy, and then start messaging. And before you know it, you've got a relationship started. Well, how many of those are pure? What the Lord spoke to me about just a couple minutes ago, he kind of confirmed this, what my thoughts were. He said, oftentimes what happens in those relationships is that the impure spirits in an individual draws the impure spirits of another individual. So, for instance, if you are a man who has challenges with lust, you'll oftentimes draw to a woman that struggles with potential issues that are not pure. Because if you were pure, it would repel you. You would want nothing to do with someone that's impure. And if you are impure, then that spirit draws you to someone that is impure. So I've seen that play out, and a lot of my friends that have other friends is that, if you are completely set free from Jezebel, Leviathan, Ahab, you will be drawn into a relationship that is healthy. You will want to be pure. And if you, there's a squirrel. 2 squirrels running and playing. We need a dog here. Where's Milo at? Anyway, so if you are impure, then you will draw to someone that is impure. And you can kind of see in the people's eyes on Facebook. You can see their pictures, and I know I've showed a lot where the before and the after pictures, you can see a person that's pure, or if they're not. The women oftentimes look more seductive in their eyes because the eyes are windows to their soul, and the men look kind of creepy that have those spirits, and so it's obviously a red flag if a guy's got a picture on Facebook without a shirt on, or if a woman's showing her cleavage, or just has a seductive look on her face. So, and I know in my ministry, I have to deal with a lot of women. Probably, 80% of those that are in my ministry are females, because oftentimes they are hurting, and they reach out more easily than guys. Guys are programmed to be tough and take it and not speak their feelings and so forth. In fact, today I was doing some ministry with a Mennonite man who was German, probably in his 70s, and he came to my weekend deliverance session, and he really received what I said. He was hurt deeply by his father, and he basically had hurt his wife and daughters, and so he was crying. I gave him a word from the Lord, and it was a gentle word, but it was right on target about how guys, when they get hurt, from their fathers, and how they take it out on their spouses and stuff. And so I was crying too, because it was, it was a very touching word, but it was true, and he got it. And so it's neat to see, when you have guys that are changing, becoming more pure, more righteous. But it's so easy today for people on Facebook to message people, and I see it all the time, and I have to be guarded myself, tremendously guarded. I cannot cross the line with any woman that would reach out to me. A lot of them are married, and they're in hurting relationships with their husbands, and I want to keep that intact. So I know that if it's getting ready to cross the line, that I need to say something. In most cases, the women understand that they're getting ready to cross the line, and they stop it, which is good. That's what needs to happen. But if you are a woman and that you are hurting, and you end up having a guy that pays attention to you, and then you end up communicating back to them, then you can feed that spirit in them that is not pure, and then before you know it, you can have an unhealthy relationship. And so you have to be really careful, because if you are, getting into where you're communicating back and you're teasing and so forth, that will draw the guys in. And of course, it could be that the enemy in you wants you to do that, because you may like the attention, and it's not healthy, not pure. So you have to be very careful. And so how do you know what's appropriate? Well, obviously, if you're a man and you're married and you're a pastor and you're reaching out to women, in the evenings and trying to pull them into conversations, that's not good. That's not cool. And that's not the way God is. So if you're a woman, you have to sometimes block them and say, and not have nothing to do with you, and not even have a conversation with them. Same thing with guys that are pure. If you have women that are trying to seduce you, like think about in the Bible. I almost dropped my phone. And it's kind of muddy down here, just so you could see. That's why I did not want to drop my phone. It's pretty here. But anyway, just like in the Bible, think about Samson and Delilah. Delilah was hot looking. Can you say hot looking? Yes, I think I can. It's my show. So she was a hot looking babe, and he was drawn in to the beauty. And he was like a I don't know, a pig led to slaughter or something, an animal led to slaughter. And he kept telling her, kept going back to her, and he couldn't break away because that spirit in her was pretty strong. And he was godly, but he ended up screwing things up, unfortunately. Because I know with myself personally, if I'm interested in a woman, I'm going to look at her heart and look at her actions. And if she's beautiful, then great. There's lots of women that are beautiful, but everyone, you have to look at their heart and make sure it's pure, and if it's not, then you need to keep your distance. Well, Samson did not do that. He got burned. And you think about some men that had God's own heart, like David. David targeted Bathsheba, so therefore he was lusting. He was supposed to be out fighting battles with the other men, but he wasn't. He was back at home checking out women that were taking showers on top of their roofs. Now, how crazy is that? Who does that? That's not very holy and pure. So ultimately, he did bad things. He had sex with her. She got pregnant. He tried to get her husband to come back and have sex with her, and he wouldn't do it because he was a man of integrity and honor. And then David was really screwed. So then what did he do to cover up his mess? He ended up having him murdered. What kind of a schmuck is David? He's a man after God's own heart, but he did have consequences after that. The son died, and Absalom tried to kill, his father and stuff. So yeah. But then you look at Joseph. Now there's a man that I want to be like, Joseph. Joseph, who had Potiphar's wife, hit on him and went to have relations. And what did he do? He ran away. And then what happened? She lied about him and went to jail for like 2 years. Just think about Joseph. Poor Joseph, but he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. And that's what we need to do. And there's so many in the church, in ministries that are operating in sin. And it's wrong. And God sees it. No matter how much they might be anointed, eventually that will come to an end. God will shut them down like a perverse clown. I mean, 'cause that's what they're doing. They're being foolish. They've got their sex and sex drives ruling their flesh is ruling their spirit. So, shame on them, but the Lord will eventually reveal it and will stop that ministry from happening. They may have the gifts, and the Lord uses them to try to help other people, but ultimately, if they're going to keep operating in that, He will shut them down. He will expose it, and then they will not have. And you think about Jimmy Swaggart. Jimmy Swaggart, unfortunately, had a lot of indiscretions and tried to cover them up. And when it was finally exposed, he didn't have, 5% of the ministry he had before. And he had a lot of pride and a lot of the sexual stuff that came out. So I hadn't even thought about talking about him, but it was like, when was it? I was in Houston, actually. I was in Houston in late October. And there was a woman that reached out to me and heard about my ministry and was crying because she had stayed with her husband for so long, like 30-some years. And he was doing things that were not good. And he actually was one of the worship leaders or directors for Jimmy Swaggart. And he had actually fallen away from the Lord, went on tour with a bunch of other secular, famous rock groups and stuff. And she stayed with him. And then finally she was in the process of looking to divorce him because she just couldn't take it anymore. But it's sad. And the enemy, again, he comes against those that are anointed. But and the Lord shows me, that and I know what is right, what is wrong. If you are reaching out to people, and if you're married, and you're reaching out to people from the opposite sex, and it's inappropriate, and you're doing it privately while your spouse is asleep, or you're doing it late at night, It's not right, and God sees it, and God knows it, and you can't get away with it forever. If you're doing things that you would not be proud of your spouse looking over your shoulder at, then don't be doing it. Ask the Lord for help. Cry out to God for deliverance, and then do it. Just do it. And again, if you're single and you're reaching out to, if you're a guy and you're reaching out to women, and I can see it on their Facebook pages, guys that are perverse, you can see it in their eyes. Then if you're a woman, you need to stop it. You need to block it. You can't encourage it. And I don't care if they're a pastor or whatever, because they oftentimes use that anointing to try to suck in and to bring in women to do bad things, very bad things. There's a bird up there making a weird sound. Must be a Canadian bird. Never heard that in the United States. Anyway, there's some ducks down there. Need to go back to my duck dynasty, get my duck dynasty calls when I was in Louisiana. So, let me see, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, yeah, the Lord told me about this. This is kind of good too. So what motivates you to have communication? What motivates you to have communication with people from the opposite sex? If it's sex, if it's money, if it's power, the anointing. Obviously, if it's to communicate with someone that has a ministry that can help you or help your spouse or help your children, then that's one thing. That's appropriate. But if you're trying to draw them into an unhealthy relationship and it's going to be impure, then you better knock it off. Because we're not going to tolerate, the Lord said, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I'm going to expose this. And there's a lot, of course, that are in the church, that are in ministries, that are doing that stuff. If it's true unconditional love, I have a lot of relationships with females that they're healthy. They're a healthy relationship. They know they can trust me. I'm trying to help them with their husbands to get set free. I've seen a lot of that, and never, have I ever crossed the line. But I take it really, I don't know, seriously, I guess, because that's who's in me, I guess, is I want people to truly have healthy relationships. I see the husbands and wives that are getting set free together, and they have such a great intimacy after that, and it's beautiful. It's a purity that needs to happen, and the Lord's doing that right now. He's purifying those around the world, and he's using people that are no names to raise them up that have his heart. And so you have to be so careful, because if you're a pure person, you'll be repulsed by an impure person. If that person's got intentions that are perverse, you'll have nothing to do with them. I will have nothing to do. If there's a woman that I know that is wanting to pursue me or whatever, and I know that they're not godly, I want nothing to do with that. Here comes a ducky. Splash. That's funny. 2 came in and landed, and now 3 are going. Anyway, so, and I think people know that. People respect me. They know that's who I am, and but I don't take it lightly. I would hate to do anything that would cause anyone to hurt. So, again, you have to be careful. There's lots of ducks here. I have to be careful as far as flirting, as well. I can understand if you've got a relationship with someone that you are, being that way with, that's one thing. But if you're flirting with a lot of different people, then that's not godly. That's not pure. So you have to be careful with that. What else? I'll say this too, that if you are godly, if you do flow in the prophetic and gifting, the Jezebel spirit will come after you. It will target you. And it's important. I won't do a personal session with a woman one-on-one. I need to have someone else, either in the room or like in the next room, so that way that I'm protected. But I know Billy Graham would always have someone in the room, and he would even have people like go to his hotel room to make sure that there was no one there waiting. I think at one point there was a woman that was trying to get pictures with him or whatever to take him down. It's so careful. You have to be so careful, so important. For me, and ultimately, I obviously want to have a wife because it would make it so much easier to then point all the women to my wife to work with versus me. That was my that was my full intentions before my second wife chose to not be honest and to do a divorce instead of getting freed and delivered. So anyway, I think we all know in our spirits what is appropriate and what is not. And when we cross the line to the inappropriateness, then the Holy Spirit will tug on your conscience to try to get you to do what is right. And if you don't, you'll get burned. The Lord will give you so many chances, and then eventually He'll expose it. And ultimately, it hurts your, so many people, it hurts everything. It hurts your credibility, hurts the ministry, hurts people. It's sad. It grieves the Holy Spirit. And I know it can be hard because the opposite sex can draw you in. With a handsome man or a person that listens and wants to help. I have to guard against it constantly. I don't want anyone to fall and be hurt. So anyway, any questions for anyone? But yeah, it's important. It's important if I am having lunch or dinner with someone from the opposite sex. And normally I have other people from other churches and so forth that are present. But of course, being single, you can choose to have lunch or dinner with anyone you want, but you have to be careful. But of course, if you are single and you're having lunch or dinner with someone that's married, then that's a whole other thing. You have to be really super duper duper careful. And if it crosses a line, then you need to break it off and say, nope, not going to have that any more conversations, and not healthy, not good. Anyway, there's like a nest, I think, right above me there. I don't know what bird is in there. Maybe there's some eggs in there. I don't know. I don't think I can get up high enough to see it. Anyway. There's like a light rain here. Maybe I'll walk down here by the ducks. It was really hard too, because this is steep and there's like a lot of mud. So climbing back up here is going to be a challenge for me. Yeah, I'll say this too. Having like joint Facebook accounts, that's not a bad idea. Having husband and wives having, obviously, I think it's good too. I know when I was married, I'd have my wife's picture with mine on there. I wouldn't have a separate picture. So there's things we can do, to protect ourselves. And anyway, let's walk on down here by the duckies. Of course, they'll probably fly away before I get there. Wow, it's like a cross. That's cool. Let's see, I think I'll flip this around and zoom in. This is kind of duck weather though. Definitely duck weather. All right. Yay, duckies. Little ducky, rubber ducky. Wasn't that a song on Sesame Street, I think? Didn't Bert and Ernie used to sing that? Rubber ducky, you're so fine, dun, dun, rubber ducky, 'cause you're mine, dun, dun, or something like that. Anyway. This is just seems surreal to me. I mean, look at this. Where am I? I am not selling software to banks anymore. I'm out in the middle of Canada. It's like I feel like like a mountain man. Because there's the mountain. I mean, how fun. How cool. I'm enjoying my life. Having fun. Yep, eventually like to have a spouse to enjoy it with and to go around the world with. But she has to be pure and righteous and godly and not have Jezebel, because I ain't going through that rodeo ever again. Here comes some more. Boy, the Duck Dynasty guys would have already killed like 10 ducks by now, probably. In fact, I don't think I've ever killed anything. I had a BB gun once, and I used to shoot like bottles. And I remember once a friend of mine, was a pastor's son, and we got up in our tree house in our farm, and we used to shoot these bottles, and we broke a bunch. And then my dad wasn't real happy after that. He made us clean them all up. And that wasn't fun. I learned a lot of lesson about that. Don't shoot glass bottles because they shatter. Shoot aluminum cans, much easier. They don't have a lot of things to pick up, so. Anyways. Well, you guys are all like family on here, all like friends. And I appreciate all of you. Some of you, we've had a lot of conversations, and some of you we've had none, some we've had a couple, and it's neat that we're all kind of in this together, trying to do our best to heal through our past wounds and to be as godly as possible so that we can come out the other side and to help other people and love them. But we have to be careful with those from the opposite sex, because we don't want them to cause us to be hurt. So yeah, this is like a great big family. Can you imagine going to heaven and seeing all the people that I think about my mom and my dad. My mom and my dad passed away. My mom died of a heart attack when I was visiting her, camping out on our farm west of Columbia City, and it was a shock to everybody. I was trying mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to get her resuscitated, couldn't do it. So she had a massive heart attack and died, and I prayed in tongues as she took her last breaths. So that's something that a lot of you don't know, but it was special to me to be there for her death. It was a shock. She was like 55 years old. And my father passed away when I was in the UP of Michigan, first time ever. It was in the wintertime, and he was 67. So I would loved to have seen my mom and dad here on earth, to watch what's happening with the ministry and how it's growing, and the TV show and all this stuff. They would have loved that. So, but anyways, I am fatherless and motherless now, but I do have God and Jesus. So anyway, I can't wait to be reunited in the heavens with them and see what they think, because I did not do this when they were here. I sold software to banks and wrote contracts and was not at all interested in doing full-time ministry, especially not delivering demons, because my grandmother did that. My grandmother was weird, so I did not want to do that. Anyways, any questions for anyone? Anyone? You can have my mom. Yes, Tina, I love your mom. She's awesome. Haven't talked to her for a while, though. Although I was like a mile away from her for 2 days in Thanksgiving, and everything in me wanted to go say hi to her. But unfortunately, I didn't. Let's see. What else? Anyway, it's kind of cold. It's like 37. I can't wait to come to Texas. It's going to be like, I don't know, 80 probably down there. At least it better be, because my hand's freezing as I'm underneath this wood and river. Well, I'm running out of things to talk about. I'm going to Toronto to do some ministry this evening, and I'll be in Aylmer, Aylmer, which again takes me back in time. It feels so much like Columbia City when I was growing up. Although we never really had any Amish buggies that came through town, but they weren't far from us. I know, like, I don't know, hour away. Anyway, it's like a kinder, gentler time. It's like I'm back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and yesterday I worked out at this workout place. I was the only one there. Today there was like a guy and a girl, and so it's a very small place, but it gets the job done, gets my sweat on. So anyway, I enjoy the simple life. I'll be here till Friday, and then I cross over, come back to America. Yay! America. I'm going through Detroit and staying in Toledo. I'll be there Friday night and Saturday, and then I'm speaking in Sandusky, Ohio on Sunday, April the 15th at Eagle's Nest. Eagle's Nest! Maybe this is prophetic, guys. Eagle's Nest. That's what that is. It resembles an eagle's nest. Probably not. A very small eagle, maybe. So anyway, Cleveland, Ohio is going to be in the 70s the next 2 days. Holy cow. So, I'll be at Eagle's Nest 10 a.m. on Sunday. I know there's people driving from a couple hours away from Detroit and Cleveland and Columbus, Ohio. It's awesome to watch this grow. And then I'm heading to Texas, to San Angelo. Never been to San Angelo before. I hear it's in western Texas, and you have to want to go there to get there. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but they have some pretty backdrops, according to my sources there. So I have some rivers and stuff. So I'll be there April the 20th, next Friday. I'll be in Kerrville, Texas, April the 21st, back in San Angelo the 22nd. Then I'll be in College Station the 25th and 26th. Be speaking at a large group on the 26th. And then I will be going to Houston the 30th. 30th and May 1st and May 2nd. I will be in Houston doing my TV shows, and then I'm going to San Antonio May the 4th and 5th. And then I'm not sure. Oh, wait. I'm not sure I'm going to be between May 6th and May the 18th. But the 18th, 19th, I'll be in Houston doing some more deliverance and trainings, and it just keeps going on and on and on. 70s and 80s in the next 2 days. Holy cow. What's going on? Anyway, I think it's supposed to be in the 50s here, so that's like a heat wave for up here in Canada. But anyway, it's good to be out in the middle of nowhere. I feel the peace that passes all understanding. I don't know if you can hear the stream or not going down there, but you can hear it right over in that area there. Something very peaceful about water. I mean, I love going next to rivers, love next to going to waters and stuff. So come to Drew's graduation with me on May the 10th. Hey, I would love to. College Station and Texas A&M. I love college towns because of the youth. You know, I love kids that are, you know, I love all kids. You know, I can see why Jesus loved the kids, because there's something that's innocent about the kids. You know, even though they get to college and they do things they shouldn't be doing, but it's youth. You know, I love that. You know, and I love to encourage kids. You know, I see the damage that happens to kids in their life when they're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s years old. And it was just bringing me to tears when I saw this German gentleman that was in his 70s. It was just bawling because he had so many things that got hurt by his dad. It was almost like he was the guy that was in the movie The Shack. I mean, he was really hurt and beaten. It was awful, awful, awful stuff. It just made me cry. But I got a word from him, from the Lord, that was just perfect. I mean, it was so good and so tender, yet so real. So anyways, but I love the youth. I love, in fact, I mean, College Station reminds me a lot of Purdue. I know, Anna, I think you're on here. Yep, there you are. Anna, yeah, so I love Purdue. In fact, when I separated from my first wife, I ended up going to Purdue and living there for like a year, something like that. And I went to campus a lot, went for runs on campus. You know, I love, you know, college football, college basketball. And I used to teach college and career when I went to First Assembly in Lafayette for, I think it was Charles Hackett was still there. I think it was before Greg took over. And Owen Payne Mason. Anyway, here comes some more birdies. Be fun to be a bird and just fly around wherever you want to go. Splash in the water when it's like 35 degrees and you don't get frozen. How cool is that? All righty. Well, I'm going to let you guys go. I love you guys and praying for you. And it's neat to see more and more people get set free and delivered all over the world, and getting more people that are trained under Restored to Freedom's ministry so that they can deliver people where they're at. The lady from Australia, she's delivering so many people now. It's just exploding for her. So it's awesome. Alrighty, well, I'm going to let you guys go. Get back on the road again, heading towards Toronto. The Toronto Blessing started in, I think it was 1984. Catch the Fire is the name of the church now. And I went there on Easter. And I did ministry last Sunday there. And now it just continues to grow. More people are wanting me to do ministry and stuff. So, alrighty. Have a great rest of your day. I will get my hand unfrozen and try to climb back up this mountain here and not slip down on my rear and have blackness on my buttocks. So anyway, all right, you guys are awesome. I love you. See you. Bye-bye.